Okay, so something huge was just announced by the White House. We're talking about a massive new national initiative, and get this, they're comparing it to the Manhattan Project and the Apollo mission. It's called the Genesis mission, and the goal is to use AI to completely revolutionize American science. So the big question is this the real deal, the start of a new golden era? Or is there, a catch?
So this whole thing was officially kicked off with a presidential executive order. And the idea here is to launch a national effort to use AI for scientific discovery on a scale that, honestly, we've just never seen before. And let me tell you, they are not being subtle about their ambitions. Just listen to this quote from the Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright. He's basically saying, hey, remember the Manhattan Project? Remember the Apollo mission? We're doing that again. They are explicitly putting this on the same level as the biggest scientific projects in U.S. history.
Okay. So that's a pretty bold claim, right? It really makes you wonder, do the goals here actually stack up to something like the Apollo mission?
Well, the core goal is actually pretty straightforward, but it is wildly ambitious. The plan is to use AI to literally double the productivity and the impact of all American science and engineering. And they want to do it in just 10 years. A decade. That's a massive goal.
Okay, so how on earth are you supposed to double the output of an entire country's scientific enterprise? Well, the plan hinges on building one really powerful new piece of national infrastructure.
And this is it, the American Science and Security Platform. Now, the best way to think about this is like a single, unified digital backbone for American science. The whole idea is to connect our best supercomputers with these enormous government data sets to just supercharge the entire research process.
So how does this thing actually work? Well, first, you connect the heavy hitters, all the supercomputers, the top AI systems, even quantum systems. Then you give them access to this treasure trove of federal scientific data. We're talking decades of information, everything from climate models to genomic sequences. Step 3 is using all of that to build powerful new AI models, AI agents specifically for science. And the final step? You unleash them to automate experiments and accelerate breakthroughs way faster than we ever could on our own.
All right, so you've got this incredibly powerful AI platform. What do you do with it? Well, you don't just let it run wild. The Genesis mission is aiming it at 3 very specific, very high-priority national challenges.
So what are they? First up is American energy dominance. The idea here is to use AI to speed up research in big areas like nuclear, fusion, and modernizing the grid. Second is advancing what's called discovery science. Really foundational stuff, like building out the quantum ecosystem for the industries of the future. And third, and this is a big one, is national security. That means everything from creating new AI for defense to making sure our nuclear stockpile is safe and reliable.
Now, obviously, the government can't do something this massive on its own. A project like this is going to take a huge collaboration. We're talking government, private industry, universities, all of them working together with some of the most powerful computers on Earth.
And when you look at the list of who's involved, the scale is just staggering. On the government side, you've got the Department of Energy bringing in 17 national labs. That's almost 40,000 scientists. Then you have the industry heavyweights, NVIDIA, Oracle, HPE, Dell, AMD, the list goes on. Plus, they're bringing in top universities and, of course, the actual hardware, the supercomputers like Aurora, Frontier, and Alcapaton. These are some of the fastest machines on the planet.
And listen, they are not messing around when it comes to the timeline. This isn't some 10-year plan that starts slow. The executive order has some really aggressive deadlines. We're talking 60 days to identify science challenges, just 90 days to catalog all the computing and data resources available. And they're supposed to have an initial version of the platform up and running in just 270 days. That's less than a year. The sense of urgency is real.
Okay, so it all sounds amazing, right? A new Apollo mission, supercomputers, AI, but here's where we hit a bit of a reality check. For all this incredible ambition, there's one giant question hanging over the whole thing. Where's the money? And this one little quote from an analysis by Implicator.ai just nails it. The entire executive order, all 3,400 words of it, has this one little phrase repeated 4 times, subject to available appropriations, which is basically government speak for, we'll do this if we get the money. And that changes things.
And this is where you start to see a real gap between the big talk and the reality on the ground. The rhetoric is all Manhattan Project urgency, but the reality is there's no new funding actually committed. They're talking about new industry partnerships, but it turns out a lot of the big deals, like the ones with NVIDIA and Dell, were already signed before this was even announced.
So it starts to look less like a brand new effort and more like a new way to organize and coordinate resources that were already there.
So to put it bluntly, the key criticisms are this. The mission is basically asking federal agencies to revolutionize science without giving them a single new dollar to do it. It's taking credit for partnerships that were already in the works. And at the end of the day, it's not a funded program like Apollo was. It's more of a policy framework, a really ambitious plan that's waiting for a budget. You can almost see it as a strategic move, right? Announce the Moonshot first, and then dare Congress to be the ones who don't fund it.
Now, this whole situation leads to a really interesting contradiction, almost a paradox, at the heart of one of the mission's biggest promises, and that's all about energy.
So here's the official claim. The Secretary of Energy said that the Genesis mission will actually create downward pressure on electricity prices. The logic is that by using AI to fast-track research into things like nuclear fusion, we'll get cheaper energy sooner, which is great for everyone's wallets.
Sounds great, right? Cheaper electricity for everyone. But check this out. This chart comes from the Department of Energy itself. It's their own projection for how much electricity all these new AI data centers are going to need. And their high-end estimate, it suggests data centers could be eating up to 12% of the entire country's electricity by 2028. That is a huge spike in demand. So you have to ask, how do you lower energy prices while at the exact same time you're creating this massive new demand on the power grid? It's a real head-scratcher.
So, after all that, what's the bottom line? What does this actually mean for everyone involved?
Well, if you're a researcher, it means you're getting a lot of new pressure to deliver big results, but with no new resources to make it happen. If you're one of these big tech companies, it's a fantastic way to align your brand with a big national mission and get some good press for work you are probably already doing. And for the rest of us, for the public, it means we've been told a major government AI initiative is here, but its actual impact, whether it really does anything, is completely tied to future funding that hasn't even been approved. And that really brings us back to the fundamental question here. Is the Genesis mission the dawn of a new golden era for American science, a genuine AI moonshot? Or is it just a beautiful blueprint, a grand vision, that's still sitting on the launch pad, waiting for the fuel to actually take off?